and gentlemen, my name is Stevan Rodic, Chief Executive Officer of the City of Stirling, and I would like to welcome you to the 2022-2023 City of Stirling Electors General Meeting. The Electors General Meeting is an opportunity for electors to consider the City's 2022-2023 Annual Report, as well as deal with any general business. Council accepted the annual report of the City of Stirling for the year 2022-2023 at the ordinary meeting of Council held on Tuesday the 13th of February 2024. The annual report includes the annual financial statements and auditor's report. I will now hand over to His Worship the Mayor, Mark Irwin, who is presiding over this meeting.
Thank you, Stev. On behalf of all elected members, I'd like to welcome you here this evening and welcome those viewers who are watching via the live stream at home. It's great to see so many people from the community interested in how we govern the city, and attending this meeting is a chance for you to have your say. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, of the land on which we meet, and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge the attendance of the following councillors in ward order: from the Balga Ward, Councillor Andrea Corrado and Councillor Michael Dudek; from the Coastal Ward, Councillor Tony Kristovich and Councillor Rob Papard; from the Double View Ward, Councillor Stephanie Proud and Councillor Elizabeth Ree; Hammersley, Councillor Chris Hatton and Councillor Carlo Perkoff; from the Inglewood Ward, Councillor David Lagan and Councillor Damien Judici; and from the Lawley Ward, Councillor Joe Ferrante and Deputy Mayor Suzanne Migdale; and from the Osborne Ward, Councillor Teresa Olo. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the attendance of the City's Chief Executive Officer and the executive team who are joining us, as well as Renuka Venkatraman from the Office of the Auditor General and Fiona Drummond from Ernst & Young. The order of business for tonight's meeting is included in the agenda, copies of which are on your seats. Apologies, I have received one from Councillor Lisa Thornton for this evening. Mr Morby, are there any other apologies to be recorded? No. Thank you. On behalf of Council, I'm pleased to present the City's annual report for 22-23, which showcases the significant services the City delivers and projects completed to help build our community. The City's been recognised for the quality of our reporting, with our annual report winning gold from the Australasian Reporting Awards for 9 years in a row, also winning Best in Sector at last year's across Australasia. Presenting our activities transparently is a priority for the City of Stirling. Transparent is one of our 4 organisational values, alongside approachable, responsive and innovative, and we're proud to lead this in this space. Starting the 22-23 financial year, our annual budget was once again balanced and debt-free. The City of Stirling continues to thrive, with almost 236,000 people calling the city home. Along with more than 23,500 local businesses, the local economy supported about 88,000 local jobs and grew from $15.7 billion in 2019 to $17.8 billion in 2021, an increase of over 13%. With many of our major strategic projects and initiatives coming to fruition after years of planning and advocacy, allow me to quickly take you through some highlights, maybe not so quick, for 22-23. After a major review, the City began the financial year by launching our new strategic community plan, Sustainable Stirling 2032. The new plan outlines an ambitious and achievable vision to be a sustainable city with a local focus, with new strategic objectives to help grow activity and vibrancy in local areas and increase our efforts in sustainability. Our women's-only swimming program at Stirling Leisure Centre's Leisure Park Balga was awarded the Community Impact Award at the inaugural WA Aquatic Recreation Industry Awards, and our Employment and Training Expo for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people showcased job opportunities as part of our Reconciliation Action Plan commitments. The City provided sponsorship to the Groundswell Surf and Skate Festival in 22, which was held at Scarborough Beach in September. This investment, combined with funding and support for Jazz by the Beach, the WA Music Awards and the Australian Surf Lifesaving Championships, the Australian Junior Squash Championships and the Perth Glory A-League Series for 22-23. We upgraded community sporting facilities including Careen Club Rooms, North Beach Soccer Club, Scarborough Tennis Club and Robinson Reserve, and redevelopment works continued at Stirling Leisure Terry Tyzack Aquatic Centre in Inglewood. We also officially opened the Andrew Guilford Community Parkland within the Rickman-Delaunay Reserve in honour of the former City of Stirling councillor, the late Andrew Guilford, who served on council between 2013 and 19. We continued to work to improve community safety, investing in a new CCTV rebate program and prioritise community safety with our investments. A massive summer of events kicked off with over $320,000 invested into seasonal staples such as Scarborough Sunset Markets, Inglewood Monday Night Markets, the Osborne Park Show, the Scarborough Beach Party, Colours of Italy, Mirrabooka NAIDOC and the Wembley Downs District Fair, as well as many other local events. Our first electric vehicles joined the fleet in October, followed by our first EV truck, which is allocated to the city's waste services for collecting white goods and e-waste. Stirling Fast Track, an innovative online service to modernise, simplify and streamline the assessment and determination of small-scale residential development applications, was launched. Minister, the Honourable John Kerry MLA, and representatives from the Housing Industry Association and Master Builders Association also joined in this event, and their support was crucial in delivering this innovative project. In November, I joined the Minister to announce the next 3 projects approved as part of the state government's targeted underground power program. We announced a second round of funding in November for events such as Brazilian Beach Carnival, King of the Point, Stirling Farmers Market, and many Christmas and carol events. We kicked off 23 with the delivery of Hamer Park and Inglewood Oval's commissioned public art. We launched a draft copy of the city's coastal hazard risk management and adaptation planning and submitted scheme amendment number 124, being the Scarborough normalisation process. Thanks, Felicity. At our Australia Day event, I announced the city had awarded former Councillor David Boothman JP the city's highest honour by naming him the 10th Honorary Freeman of the city. We also spent some time during 23 honouring the service and legacy of Stuart Jardine PSM, who announced his resignation after 17 years with the city. The Oz Cycling 23 BMX National Championships were held at Westside BMX with funding from the City of Stirling, and construction also started on stage 1 of the Jackadder Lake Reserve landscaping. Trackless trams continued to be a focus in May as we hosted a delegation from the Chinese manufacturer, CRRC, Infrastructure Technology Solutions Group and Curtin University to discuss the delivery of a trial we now know was so successful for the City of Stirling. Water Corporation and the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation awarded the City Platinum Waterwise Council of the Year, awarding our efforts to reduce consumption and improve efficiency through the City Sustainable Verge Awards. And in partnership with the State Government, the City switched on new LED lighting at Grindleford Reserve, and we opened the Millett Park Junior Bike Skills Track and Skate Facility in Innaloo. In April, we approved a multi-million-dollar plan to redevelop Hammersley Public Golf Course, which will drive a new era of golf at one of Australia's most popular 18-hole courses. The City also led the second WA Tree Festival, which grew to include 18 local governments. As we approach the final weeks of 22-23, we congratulated former City of Stirling Councillor David Michael on his appointment as a State Government Minister and continue to work closely with him and other local members to benefit our community. The Corrine Cats Club Room opening was held in June and a new mural was painted at Stirling Libraries in Dianella. 22-23 was a year of phenomenal growth and delivery, and I commend the executive team and the employees of the City for their tireless work and their dedication to the community. I would like to commend this report as a product of our transparent approach to governance and give our assurance the City will continue to maintain a high standard of reporting. We will approach the challenges ahead with integrity. Our bold vision for the City continues, and 23-24 will be a time of fulfilling the aspirations of our community. I would now like to hand over to Ms Ingrid Hawkins, Director of Corporate Services, to provide a short presentation on the City's annual financial statements for the year ending 30th of June 23.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. I have a very short presentation of the City's annual financial statements for the year ending 30th of June 2023. As the Mayor has just mentioned, the City delivered a number of services, projects and programmes throughout the year, and you also see that later in our highlights reel. And we were able to do so while increasing reserves to fund major capital projects, building on our already solid financial position. I need to get you to click. Thank you. In terms of the City's overall position, we had a balanced bottom line with a total revenue of £281.9 million, an expenditure of £328.1 million. We include there 24.2 million, which we transfer from our reserves to fund projects and programmes. And the remaining amount is covered through our opening balance, which includes our carry forwards. Sorry, Anne. Thank you. With regards to the city's revenue, very similar position from last year. So 77% of our revenue is generated through our rates, our security charge and our waste services. And our other main contributor is our grants from both federal and state, and also the fees and charges that are raised by the city through the use of our facilities, as well as our commercial lease revenue. So those are some of the major areas where we take in our revenue. With regards to our operating expenditure, again, similar to last year, 35% of our costs are related to employee costs and 34% are for our running costs. So that includes things like maintenance of our buildings, of our roads, of our reserves, etc., infrastructure, and also provision of our waste services, which is around about 41 million per year. The other main cost there is our depreciation, which is associated with our large asset base that I'll show you in a minute. With regards to our capital expenditure, we spent over 49 million on capital items in 22-23, with roads, drainage and footpaths accounting for the largest percentage, 37%, and land and buildings 34%, reserves and lighting 7%. And again, very similar to what you've seen in previous years. And finally, our asset base. So the city holds over 2.4 billion in assets. And you'll see 61% of those assets are our land and buildings, which were revalued, and a further 18% in roads, drainage and footpaths. So again, a very similar picture to what you've seen previously. I'm now going to hand you over to Renuka Venkatraman from the Office of the Auditor General, who will brief you on the Independent Auditor's report for the year ending 30th of June 2023. Thanks, Renuka.
Thanks, Ingrid. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to give you an update on the financial audit for the year ended 30th June 2023. So the audit was conducted by Ernst & Young on behalf of the Office of the Auditor General. It was conducted in accordance with Australian auditing standards. The objective of the audit was to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial report, considered as a whole, was free from material misstatement due to either fraud or error. At the conclusion of the audit, an unmodified or a clean opinion was issued for the year ended 30th June 2023. I will now read out an extract from our audit report that confirms this. The annual financial report of the City of Stirling is based on proper accounts and records and fairly represents in all material respects the results of the operations of the city for the year ended 30th June 2023 and its financial position at the end of that period in accordance with the Local Government Act 1995 and to the extent that they are not inconsistent with the Act with Australian accounting standards. Thank you.
Yeah, we haven't got to that bit, Mr. Collins. Yes, I'm aware. That's what I'm sorting out right now. Thanks, Mr. Collins. We will get to those. They're jumping the gun. I was making sure they were here for you.
Thank you, Ms Hawkins and Ms Venkatraman. I will now play a presentation highlighting the city's achievements for the 2022-2023 financial year, full details of which are contained within the City of Stirling's 2022-2023 annual report.
City of Stirling karit nyunga mur nyunga buja waja buja. Ngalak karit nyunga neringa we bridia kura we yay balaban kundam. Maling we nakalak balap yang ngaling alak dan ju ba we karit barang buja.
The City of Stirling is a thriving multicultural hub. that more than 235,000 people call home. The city spans over 100 square kilometres across 30 suburbs with beautiful natural landscapes and beaches that draw international attention. With well-established business and retail centres, Stirling is the second largest employment district in WA. We are dedicated to our community and strive to be a customer-focused, efficient and responsive local government. And this was reflected in the delivery of our projects and services in 2022 to 23. In July, Council endorsed the city's new long-term plan, Sustainable Stirling 2022 to 2032, together with a strong vision to be a sustainable city with a local focus to lead us into the future. Our performance over the year is explored through the 5 key result areas set out in Sustainable Stirling, and we are proud to share some of our achievements with you. With such a diverse population, it is important that the city engages with our residents to create harmony and connectedness. To better meet the needs of older residents and ensure the contributions of older people are valued and celebrated, the city implemented a new, age-friendly plan this year. In alignment with the youth framework, Stirling youth advocates took part in a number of youth-focused initiatives throughout the year to foster youth development. To create welcoming spaces and provide opportunities to bring people together, 3 public art projects were delivered, including a major mural which was commissioned at Scarborough Beach. The city also continued to work to improve community safety, investing $150,000 in a new CCTV rebate program to help residents install CCTV cameras in their homes. The City of Stirling is an economic hub, with flourishing business precincts attracting visitors all year round. More than 88,000 jobs across 22,400 local businesses saw a gross regional product of $18 billion for the financial year. To support this growth, the city led the sector by launching Stirling Fast Track to streamline determination on small-scale residential development applications. In a boost to the local economy, and under the city's economic and tourism development strategy, the city attracted and supported major sporting and music events, providing $555,000 in sponsorship value and attracting attendance of 35,000. The Australian Surf Lifesaving Championships was a major event over 9 days that saw almost 6,000 surf lifesavers of all ages competing in over 500 events. The event attracted thousands of attendees, with 80% travelling from interstate and overseas. The city maintains a significant portfolio of community infrastructure within its built environment, including roads, buildings, parks, footpaths and more. The city secured over $30 million from the state and federal governments this year to improve road safety, reserve lighting, community gardens, paths and playgrounds. To develop and maintain amenity in our local areas, we upgraded community sporting facilities, including Corrine Baseball Club rooms, North Beach Soccer Club, Scarborough Tennis Club and Robinson Reserve. Significant redevelopment works have also continued at the Stirling Leisure Centre, Inglewood. The city also completed the replacement of severely eroded structures at Mettham's Pool to enable residents safe access to the beach. The city's Australian first trackless tram trial continued to gain pace. This ambitious project is part of the city's broader vision to improve transport connections and revitalise the area between the Stirling city centre and Scarborough Beach. The city's natural landscape is as diverse as its community, and we are committed to creating a sustainable future for our residents. The city continued to be recognised this year, receiving the Platinum Waterwise Council of the Year at the Waterwise Recognition Awards for demonstrating innovation to reduce water consumption, improve efficiency, and support the community to be water-wise. The city progressed a number of initiatives as part of its Sustainable Energy Action Plan, including installation of solar panels at Stirling Libraries, Inglewood and Mirrabooka, saving more than $50,000 in energy costs per year. We procured 8 electric vehicles, and in a WA first, our first electric truck to support our transition to net zero emissions. The EV 8.5 tonne truck will be used within waste services for the collection of white goods and e-waste and is expected to save 6,200 litres of fuel and generate a reduction in 12.3 tonnes of CO2 emissions annually. To promote tree canopy growth across the city and reach our tree canopy target of 18% by 2040, the city provided 2,315 free trees and more than 16,000 Waterwise plants for residents at community events. Our Sustainable Verge program also supported 175 residents to create Waterwise native verges to reduce water use and create resilient gardens. The city prides itself on its accountable and responsive governance, conducting 17 council meetings and 25 committee meetings during the year, which were attended by almost 450 members of the community. Our annual report won Best in Sector for Accountability and Transparency in Strategic Performance Reporting at the Australasian Reporting Awards, ARA, and received a Gold Award, the 9th in a row for the city. With a focus on improving the customer experience at all levels, the city introduced a new online web chat service on our website. We also sent out our first edition of the Ward News Brochure, a printed publication initiated by Council to provide relevant and local information to residents, tailored to each of the city's 7 wards. The city introduced a new workforce plan to develop, engage, attract and optimise our employees. The city is proud of its diverse workforce and was nationally recognised as an inclusive employer by the Diversity Council of Australia this year. The city's performance over the past year was recognised by our residents in the 2023 annual survey, resulting in a community satisfaction rating of 96%, the best result in the city's history. We are proud of this achievement, which reflects the dedication and hard work of the Mayor, councillors, Chief Executive Officer, executive team, employees and volunteers. We are committed to realising our vision as a sustainable city with a local focus. We look forward to continuing to deliver a high standard of services and programs for our community and create a bright future for everyone that lives, works and visits in the City of Stirling, the city of choice.
I will now hand you back over to the Mayor ahead of consideration of the annual report.
Thanks again, Steve. We'll now go into the 2022-23 annual report and financial statements. The moment Mr. Collins has been waiting for. So this is where we will ask you if you have a question related to the annual report and the financial statements. This is when you are welcome to come up and ask those questions. If you have questions, statements or motions relating to something not directly in the 22-23 annual report, that will happen after this. So you don't have to come up now for those. So I'll now ask if there are any questions from the floor, and if there is, yes, Ms. Jack, if you could come forward. And if you can just turn the microphone on for me to start it off, that'd be great. Just on the bottom right. And as you're probably aware, your name and suburb, and then your question relating to the annual report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, staff, councillors. My first question is about the financial statements. I note in your annual report, question 1, I note in your annual report, it's 286 pages and very comprehensive. I refer to you the statement of comprehensive income for the year ended 30th of June 2023, the profit and loss statement on page 212. You'll note on that page that the profit and loss has a significant number of financial information referenced to notes in the financial statement, which are explained transactions. You'll note that the loss of disposal of assets is 21.4 million. It's a material transaction or transactional transactions that turned a profit of 22.4 million into a significantly smaller profit of just under 1 million. So my question is, given the amount is material to the profit and loss, why was no explanation provided on how this loss occurred?
Thank you, Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Ms Jack. With regards to that entry, that is a non-cash entry with regards to adjustment on our reserves, and it actually related to two things. 13.7 million, which related to reserves, and then the other adjustment, which was actually related to our golf course. But that doesn't affect, I guess it doesn't affect the profit. It is around the revaluation, and we have our revaluation reserve, and further information on that is available in note 8. But that's certainly something that we've worked through with our audit team.
Second question related to this. Question 2, can you please explain how the city lost 21.4 million on assets disposed and details behind this transaction? Sorry, you explained that. Now, so you say a golf club. These were obviously assets that have been devalued, right?
Ms Hawkins.
Was a golf course devalued?
Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, the Mayor. So with regards to the golf club, we have...
Which golf club?
So the Hammersley Public Golf Course. So with our redevelopment there, in terms of the demolition of buildings, then that impacts our non-cash. So that's the adjustment that's going through the accounts.
Okay. So why was there no explanation for that figure of material significance?
Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, the Mayor. The requirements through the accounting standards requires us to have that information through our note 8, and that's where we provide the breakdown of that detail of that 21
Sorry,
million.
I couldn't find it anywhere.
So note 8, so I can certainly provide that to you in writing, Ms Jack.
Yeah, but I couldn't find it anywhere in the annual report, any explanation of what that was. Going forward, could figures like that have an explanation? Because, you know, you go over and above, the audience for this annual report are the public, as well as councillors who aren't all necessarily in the industry of financial management. So could you, provide that information next time as an explainer for that?
Ms Hawkins.
Through the Mayor. Yes, absolutely, Ms Jack. We can always look to improve on the information we're providing. So, yeah, certainly happy to look at that.
Look, this annual report, the CEO, former CEO, Mr Jardine, has once again given himself a near perfect performance rating of 96%. In the corporate sector, if a CEO has a performance rating of 75%, it's considered pretty good. 96% would be virtually unheard of, maybe Qantas, that would be about it. To achieve these performance ratings, he sets very low KPIs and very high budgets that can't be missed. A company board of directors would never sign off on an annual report like this. The shareholders would riot and the CEO would be sacked. It's the duty of...
Have you got a question, Ms Jack?
Yeah. The duty of the CEO is to provide relevant, concise information that's understandable. The state government's annual report, this is 286 pages. The state government's report is 174, and Main Roads, with all their massive portfolio of projects, is only 190 pages. This is full of basically self-congratulatory, gloating, greenwash.
Miss.
It is. I can prove it's greenwash, so I don't have a problem saying that.
That is a very serious allegation,
yes.
Ms Jack, as you're aware.
I
so
know.
let
Okay,
me-
so my question is this. Will the new CEO set a higher standard of reporting, and will the mayor and councillors make sure that he does before signing off on annual reports?
So let's be very clear. I actually disagree with many of your statements, Ed, and to be very clear, it's a council that set the KPIs for the CEO. The CEO has not performed at 96%, so prior CEO at all his metrics. It was one metric that was mentioned, the customer satisfaction that you saw on the video. There are other metrics in there, which are KPIs set by this council, are measured, and they certainly weren't 96%. I utterly reject any greenwashing in the annual report.
Okay.
And I will say that the annual report incorporating the annual financial statements has been measured against the sector through an independent Australasian Reporting Awards and was awarded best in sector. So I beg to differ. The council certainly will set the KPIs for the new CEO. Your next question.
Yes. Okay. The Million Trees Initiative is a false and misleading title. Can you please change that back? Last time I complained about that years ago, you changed it back to the Million Trees and Plants, or sorry, Million Trees and Shrubs project. That would be great if you could do that. My question is, will you change that back to the Million Trees and Shrubs initiative?
Thank you. And we'll take that on notice, obviously, and consider it.
Once again, sorry, this is just about the annual financial report and statements. So my other questions relate to this meeting, which is a separate thing. So
we'll ask you back for those
yep.
later on.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions, Mr. Collins? Thank you. Your name and suburb to start.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity this evening. The entry was very good and
Sorry,
it's all
Mr.
been
Collins.
very smooth.
Mr. Collins, yeah, thanks.
Paul Collins from Dianella. I think it's good that you have the financial statements in a separate document because it is a very long annual report. Okie dokes. Since 2019, Mr. Mayor, the council has had deficit after deficit after deficit. And as a council watcher on net operating activities, and as a council watcher going back since about 2005, I'm not aware that we ever had net operating deficits prior to that. So we had a 3 million deficit in 2019, a 10 million deficit in 2020, a 13 million deficit in 2021, a 6.4 million deficit in 2022, and a 1 million deficit in 2023. My question to the auditor is, does the auditor have any concerns regarding the continued run of deficits
Thank
from
you,
an
Mr.
operating perspective?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Collins, and I might pass to Ms. Hawkins to start and then maybe across, if that's all right. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Collins. With regards to the deficit, and particularly you mentioned the 2020 year with COVID as well. So what the city looks to do is to fund through the reserves. So that's why we do see years where we don't have where we have what you're considering an operating deficit, but that is being funded through reserves and a decision of council with regards to that. So year on year we are making that decision, but there's not a deficit. It is just in terms of how the council determines to fund the expenditure within that particular year. I'll pass on to.
Just your microphone, sorry.
So, Mr. Collins, no, we don't have any concerns with respect to the deficit. As the CFO said, there is funding through the reserve accounts as well. Some of those years you referred to included COVID and obviously some relief through that process as well. And you can see that there is a small operating loss this year. You wouldn't expect that the council would be making significant profits from rate holders.
Ms. Collins.
Thank you. And I think that's a very important metric, Mr. Mayor, through you, for councillors to focus on the operating activities of council. And it is pleasing to see that it is back down to a negative $1 million. And given our budget, but it would be nice to get back into surplus so that we can be pumping some money into reserves rather than taking away from reserves. So then you ask yourself, well, why is it that the money still keeps growing at the bank? And when I look at the investing activities, I see that there was a budget of capital expenditure this year of 82.5 million, but we only spent 49.3 million. Why is that?
Thank you. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Mr Collins, I just go back to your comment there about the reserves. Just when we do the budgeting as well, council do make a determination to put money into the reserve each year. So we are ensuring that within our budget process, we continue to top up the reserve so that we can deal with those major corporate projects. So we're not pulling on rates in a particular year. So I just wanted to touch on that. Thank you. And then with regards to the investments, apologies, sorry, let me know your question again.
So you go down the financial statements. We've looked at operating activities, and then you go down to financing, which is a nothing line. There's no financing activities because we're not borrowing any money. And then you go over the page, and I think we're going down to page 217, and we're at investing activities. Can that be seen there?
Yes.
And so we had a budget this year of, last financial year, of spending 82.5 million, but I noticed that only 49 million was spent.
Yeah.
Why
Sorry.
was,
Yes,
that's a significant shortfall to me. Why was that shortfall there?
So in terms of investing activities, so again, part of that is due to our multi-year projects as well. So within budgeting, we're allowing for those major capital projects that go over multi-years, and therefore we're looking at pulling down money from reserves. Now, some of those timelines have shifted, which then means that we have a difference in terms of our investing activities that happens year on year. So we continue to look at the ensuring that our cash flow is appropriate for those projects.
It does, would you agree, it does seem a significant, compared to previous years, a significant discrepancy, and would it suggest that perhaps the council is biting too many capital projects than it can really chew?
Thanks. And I can probably mention that this year and the last few years, Mr Collins, as you're probably aware, the Inglewood Terry Tyzack Pool, the Hammersley Golf Course and the Recycling Centre Balcatta are indeed three very significant projects with very significant budgets that the timeline has a real material effect on those figures you see. So we are confident the city's not biting off too many projects. There's just some really big significant projects that are there.
But if you're not spending $30 million on capital projects, I'm just wondering that capital expenditure would, for instance, road resurfacing, would that fall under capital expenditure?
Thanks. Ms Hawkins?
Through the Mayor, yes, so our road programme falls under capital, yes, Mr Collins.
So it's not really clear, is it, where the shortfall is under capital expenditure? Is the shortfall, as the Mayor is explaining, on not being able to deliver projects, and I can understand in the building industry at the moment if you're delivering new projects, or is it a failure to deliver our bread and butter of, say, for example, road resurfacing?
Thank you. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Mr Collins. What we provide each year when we set the budget is the capital programme, but we also show the carry forwards there. So if you go to our budget document for 22-23 and equally 23-24, you'll see the capital programme, and there we note what the carry forward is. So you'll be able to see from that the majority of that are these multi-year projects with significant amounts. So we make that available when we set the budget.
Okay. And may I please have an update, Mr Mayor, on the progress in relation to accrued leave, staff leave, compared to the previous financial year?
Sure. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Mr Collins. Yes, we continue to work on our leave liability. So we've seen a significant reduction in our annual leave. Long service leave tends to, it fluctuates down but has gone back up with regards to our overall leave, but our excessive both annual leave is down now to a matter of 5 weeks. Our long service leave is now under 800 weeks, so we continue to work on planning those longer breaks with our teams. But yes, certainly we've had an impact on those, and you'll have noted from the auditor's report that that's no longer a finding or a recommendation.
That's very pleasing. That's good. And Mr Mayor, just on relation, going back as I was thinking there, on that page 217, and I'm talking of the annual report because is it possible to get a breakdown on that shortfall of capital expenditure?
Yes, we can provide that to you in writing.
Okay.
Mr. Collins.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity, always in sufficient time, in providing the annual report and providing ratepayers who generally regularly attend these meetings with a note that they are available, and also mentioning it in the street scene that they're available. I very much appreciate it. There's sufficient time.
Thank you. You can leave that microphone on. Yep. Are there any other questions? Mr. Wheeler?
My name's Simon Wheeler from Scarborough. Good evening, Mayor. Oh, he's a tall chap, isn't he? Scarborough.
Got it.
And I've forgotten where I was. I was saying good evening, Mayor, Councillor, staff and members of the gallery. A very good-looking lot tonight, I think, Mayor Owen. Mayor, I only have one quick question on the annual report. On page 173, under wildlife recovery, the pest control programme resulted in the removal from our natural areas of 25 cats. The question is, what happened to those 25 cats and how many were returned to the environment?
Thank you. Mr. Quirk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. Mr. Wheeler, I would have to get confirmation on each of those cats. None of them would have been returned to the environment. They would have either most likely gone to the cat haven, and if it was a registered cat, it would have been returned to its owner. But I can certainly get some clarity. We'll have clear advice on what happened to each and every one of those cats.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, any follow-up to that? I'm sure this is the case, but the city doesn't undertake trap and release in any form, does it?
No.
No, it doesn't. Okay. And one more question on that, Mayor. Does the figure of 25 include multiple trappings of the same cat, or are these unique cats? Or sorry, more to the point, has the same cat been caught several times?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Wheeler. I'm guessing we can't answer that tonight, but I do know we do have that information. Council were provided with a workshop recently, and there's some detailed information sitting behind on those figures, so we're happy to provide all that to you in writing.
Fantastic. And just quickly, Mayor Owen, with regard to something Ms Jack said about the annual report, talking about the 96% overall community satisfaction figure, Mayor, and if I was to stand on the corner of Scarborough Beach Road and Brighton giving out free money, I wouldn't get a 96% satisfaction rating. Some people would think I'm not giving enough. Some people would think that I'm stark raving mad. Some people think that I'm giving more to them and not to them. Mayor, only those who've had all of their critical faculties surgically removed believe that there's a 96% customer satisfaction survey in the City of Stirling, and I think Ms Jack's comment should be taken in line with that. That's more of a statement, I suppose.
Yeah, happy to take your statement. My comment was around it certainly wasn't on all the metrics for the CEO, as was intimated in the comment.
I understand that, Mayor, but it's lies, damn lies and statistics, and if one of them's wrong, what faith can we have in the rest of them? And again...
And happy to provide you that in writing, but it certainly is an independent statistic, and whilst we all know that you may stand on the corner, and that may be the case, it is a metric that we are proud of and will use because it is independently certified.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for your comment, Mr. Wheeler. Are there any other questions regarding the annual report? Noting there will be plenty of opportunity, obviously. Ms Murphy? Yep. So are we talking about the financial statement? This is, yeah, just a financial statement, financial statements and specifically the annual report. So this isn't... The annual report. Yeah, so if it's specifically about the annual report or the financial statements, if it can go into the general business side, you're welcome to do it after.
Robin Murphy, 30 Rinaldi Crescent, Karrinyup. I have a question in relation to the annual report, or to the report that was made tonight by the CEO, in relation to tree canopy. As I understood, the report said that there's an aim for 18% tree canopy in the City of Stirling by 2040.
Yes,
Perhaps that could be, so that is a correct figure.
that is still the correct
Right,
figure. Yes.
okay. Can I ask the question then, does this include any tree protection orders to achieve that rather low figure? Is there anything that the city is doing to protect trees on private property? Is the city considering, when it's looking at tree canopy, public health issues in relation to that? And could we please know what the percentage will be on an annual basis leading up to 2040, which seems to be an extraordinarily low tree canopy for that period of time, considering that the City of Sydney currently has 20% tree canopy? I really think the city has to lift its game in relation to that, but perhaps my questions could be answered.
Sure. So I'll just get maybe if I get a brief response from the Shears, and we may have to respond to some of those in more detail in writing for you. Certainly acknowledging that whilst the perception is it's a low target, it is still an extremely large target in terms of being realistic. We are, if I was honest with you, Ms Murphy, we are very concerned that we still won't reach that target. But
Wow.
it's a hard comparison with the City of Sydney being, the City of Stirling is very different makeup and 100 square kilometres. But I'll get Ms Shears to provide some comments.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you, Ms Murphy, for the question. With regard to any particular controls on private land, the city's unable to do that at this stage. We do try and work through with development applications that come through the door, so we offer a number of services to try and incentivise applicants keeping trees on their properties, but there's nothing we can do at this stage to mandate them to retain them. We often find that they might keep them through a subdivision process, and then unfortunately when they come to lodge a development application for a house or something, those trees are unfortunately removed. Sometimes the trees are located in unusual spots on the block as well, which makes them difficult to retain. But we've got a number of initiatives that the city does offer applicants to try and retain trees. We have a free arborist service as well to try and work with them to help them design around a particular tree on a property. We also will prioritise assessment of applications that do retain trees. So we're doing what we can in a space that's limited in terms of what we can mandate protection. We do have a scheme amendment with the state government at the moment for consideration, which is a voluntary tree protection register. So it enables people to put their own trees on that register for protection. But it's very difficult for us to control on private land at this stage.
Thank you. My other question was in relation to tree protection orders. Are there any plans to put those into effect? I know they can be done.
Ms Shears?
Through you, Mr Mayor, unfortunately, no, that's not something we can do at this stage either on private land.
I would appreciate, Mr Mayor, a more thorough response in writing. I'd also like to know, it's easy to say we can't do it, but I'd like to know why.
Sure, and we're happy to provide you any of the recent council motions and any information around those and the discussions that happened around those private tree orders.
May I ask a second question?
Yes, you may.
Relates to staff at the City of Stirling.
Yes.
Is there a requirement to the City of Stirling for reporting on a gender pay gap? I note that the national gender pay gap is 12%. In Western Australia, it's 21.7%. And this is on full-time adult average weekly and ordinary time earnings. And that gap is obviously between male employees and female employees. Does the city report on that?
Thank you. Ms Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the question. With regards to the annual report on page 59, we provide the male-female with regards to certain bandings, so from 130,000 up, to give a feel for what the split is. We don't have to report on the actual gender pay difference, but we do set targets for our Equal Opportunities Plan, and that's one of the things that we will look at going forward.
I wonder if I could also receive a reply in writing in relation to the gender pay gap and what the city's policies are in relation to that. I thought it was mandatory to report actually, but perhaps I'm wrong.
Thank you for your questions. Are there any other specific questions to the annual report? If not, is yours the annual report, Mr Mitchell, or can it go to the general business? Mr Mitchell, these are for the annual report, is that correct?
Yeah.
Or are these general business?
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, council officers and fellow people in the gallery. On the annual financial statements, I'd just like to ask a question in relation to insurance. I'd like to be included in the annual report what the differential is between the purchase of insurance for built form and general equipment and things for the City of Stirling, separate and distinct from anything to do with workers' compensation. What I want to know is the differential between 2019, the gross cost of the insurance that year, and what it is for this year. And yes, I'd just like to know those two things in relation to the council's finance.
Thank you, Mr Mitchell.
And,
I'll get Ms Hawkins to provide a short response and we'll then provide you all the detail and updates in writing.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's
Mayor.
fine.
Thanks, Mr.
And yeah, I'll just wait for general questions.
Are there any other questions relating to the annual report and financial statements? If not, I will move on to the next part, which is the motion. For those, I know there's some people here who've attended these before. For those who aren't, as we move on tonight, each elector who is present tonight is entitled to vote on each matter at this meeting. But you do not have to vote. It's entirely up to you whether you raise your hand or not. The first one of these is the motion that we have prepared for the annual report and financial statements. Either councillors or a member of the gallery can move those. If it is a member of the gallery that moves a motion tonight, if I could ask if you could stand up and please say loudly your name and suburb so that we have a record of who moved a motion and who seconded a motion, as I may not know all of you. And then I will put each item to a vote for and against. So the first motion tonight is that the annual report for the City of Stirling for the year 22-23, incorporating the 22-23 annual financial statements and the 22-23 auditor's report, be accepted. So can I please get a mover for that motion? Thank you. I will go to Councillor David Lagan has moved the motion, seconded Deputy Mayor Migdale. I will now put that to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. And those against? Thank you. That motion is carried. I'd now like to thank our auditors for sitting up here on display for the community. Thank you for your time tonight. And I'll just get them to swap out with our directors who may be able to assist as we move forward. I'll now move on to the general business and I declare the meeting open for general business. Again, for those who aren't here, I'll get an experienced person to come up first so you can have a look. There's a couple of hands raised straight away. Yep. So let me just go through, 2 secs. So it's up to you what you do tonight. If you'd like to stand up there and just make a statement, you are welcome to. If it's a statement of something that's been concerning you and you wish to make a statement, this is the night to do that. If you'd like to ask questions, you may also do that. You may do both. If you'd like to make a statement, then ask a question. That is okay as well. We will endeavour to ask questions or at least provide a brief response to you tonight with the directors here. There may not, if it's very specific, there may not be the current information or the person who's responsible may not be here. And in which case, I'll let you know that we'll respond to you in further detail in writing so you have all that and it'll be on record and it will form part of the minutes of this meeting. You may also move motions tonight, and by that you may move a motion. While the motion is not binding on council, it will be considered at a future council meeting in the short term. So officers will prepare a report and provide some information to councillors, and then they may decide what to do with that going forward. I hope I've made that clearer and rather than more complicated. I will also just note, just so you do know, that you are being live streamed tonight. So it is important when a motion is, I urge you to consider the motion before you raise your hand for and against, because obviously everyone knows what you've done. It's on record. The only reason I say that is sometimes people have said after, geez, I wish I hadn't have raised my hand for that. That's all. I will now start with Mr. Wheeler. He's raised his hand, and I'll ask you to come up first and give us a quick clinic on how to do this, Mr. Wheeler.
Good day again, Mayor Owen. Mayor Owen.
Name and suburb to
Oh,
start.
sorry.
Come on, that's why I got you up.
Get the experienced one up, yeah. Simon Wheeler, Scarborough. Mayor Owen, I have 6 motions that I want to put forward. I'm putting them forward on behalf of the Stirling Tree Canopy Advocates Association, who are part of the West Australian Tree Canopy Advocates Association, who will probably not agree with my first sentence. Mayor Owen, the Honourable Minister you were talking about earlier for planning, John Chainsaw Carey, as some have now branded him, has recently knocked back the proposed medium density codes, which would have required more open space for tree retention, planting and outdoor living space in order to provide a healthier, more sustainable and more amenable environment, which mostly would have applied to infill development where most tree loss occurs. The Minister has also refused to accept the WAPC approved scheme amendments for Nedlands and South Perth that included protections designed to stimulate canopy protection in those districts, and is currently in the process of stripping other LGA's proposed planning schemes of anything that may protect the urban forest. And listening to an answer earlier from, was it Ms Hughes? I understand the position that the council finds themselves in. The current state government's clear policy of somewhere to live rather than somewhere one might want to live, or indeed even somewhere livable, is problematic when it comes to the council putting policy that may have to go through the Minister only to be refused. I urge you all to do the right thing regardless. You may not want to do something, but something must be done. Legima, the Local Government Elected Members Association, notes in their canopy policy the statutory obligations under the Local Government Act specify that the general function of a local government must be performed having regard to a list that includes the need to promote the economic, social and environmental sustainability of the district, to plan for mitigating risks associated with climate change, and in making decisions to consider potential long-term consequences and impacts on future generations. The city has accepted quite openly and honestly that its urban forest strategy hasn't worked in the past, isn't working now, and isn't going to work in the future. You've been upfront with that. And I don't think I need to go into the benefits of the urban canopy or trees in general, or the health and amenity benefits of a healthy urban canopy for the community. Your own policies already do that. The following motions should be addressed with reference to Council's responsibilities as prescribed in the Act, and bear in mind that neither local laws nor local policy are subject to ministerial approval. In saying that, Mayor Owen, my first motion would be subject to ministerial approval, but I'll move it nonetheless. The motion is that the City of Stirling includes in its draft local planning scheme number 4 provisions to achieve tree protection on private property through the insertion of the following into Schedule A, the supplemental provisions to the deemed provisions, being clause, I'm sorry, this is a bit wordy, but that's all right. It's the only wordy one. Clause 68, no person shall remove a tree, which includes ring barking, cutting down, topping, lopping, removing, pruning, transplanting, thinning or excavating around, injuring or willful destruction that meets the following criteria unless development approval has been granted in accordance with Part 8 of the deemed provisions. To insert A, a tree height of 8 metres or greater, canopy with a width of 6 metres or greater, a total trunk circumference of 1.5 metres, and where the tree has multiple trunks, an average trunk circumference of 625 millimetres, measured at 1.4 metres above ground level, or is on a significant tree register. And also add to the relevant additions to clause 61 for the circumstances where 60A can be bypassed. That's it.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. Sorry, and if you can just yell your name out. Felicity Farrelly has seconded that motion. So the motion is put and it is seconded. I will now put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. And those against? That motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Mayor Owen, the City will be aware of the Walga Model Local Planning Policy for Tree Retention that has been distributed to Walga members. It's far too long for me to read out today, but for the benefit of the members of the public who I hope will vote for this motion, Walga's policy aims to encourage and facilitate the protection of trees and canopy by providing a clear definition of a regulated tree, clarify when a development application is required for tree damaging activity, prioritise retention, protection and the provision of trees on private land, promote and facilitate tree preservation and enhance neighbourhood amenity, character and sense of place, and mitigate the urban heat island effect, reduce air pollution, improve groundwater quality and contribute to biodiversity and other environmental benefits. I note that Walga have managed to write a whole draft policy on tree retention without using the phrase climate change. Nonetheless, I regardless wish to raise a motion on behalf of the Stirling Tree Canopy advocates that the City of Stirling adopt Walga's Model Local Planning Policy for Tree Retention in its entirety, which has the effect of defining a regulated tree as works that require development approval.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion, please? Thank you. Felicity Farrelly has raised her hand again. So as a seconder, that motion has now been put. I will ask you to vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? That motion is carried.
Did I just vote against my own motion?
I didn't count it.
Okay.
Although the record will show that you...
I'll skip the preamble for the next one, Mayor Owen. You've already spoken about that you accept that there's a problem with the tree canopy. Overall canopy cover in Perth is 16%, the hottest city in the hottest state, with the least canopy of any major Australian city, Stirling sitting at 12%. Walga supports a 30% minimum canopy cover for Perth and Peel regions by 2040. Regima also supports 30% minimum targets by 2040. Doctors for the Environment and other experts in this field state that the optimal tree canopy target for housing areas is 30%. The annual report on page 175 itself states that the value of tree canopy is not simply the number of trees in an area, and it cannot be overstated. There's probably a motion after that as well somewhere. Any day now. Motion, Mayor Owen. I'd like to raise a motion that the City of Stirling commits to a tree canopy target of 30% by 2040, supported by appropriate planning and policy changes, funding, monitoring and annual reporting.
Thank you for that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Alicia Jack. Thank you. I will put that motion now. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? That motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Mayor Owen, a motion of mine from last year at the AGM was noted in council as potentially being problematic in regard to private property rights. But private property rights go both ways, Mayor Owen. I'm aware of a Stirling landowner who has a healthy, significant tree, a 40-year-old mature gum on their own property, which all parties agree will become unstable and require removal due to building work from an approved development at an adjacent block. The ratepayer was told correctly by city staff that the city cannot help protect the tree in those circumstances. If the work was to affect a structure on their property, then yes, they could do something about it. That's verboten. but currently privately owned trees don't count, even when they're on your own land. And if my soon-to-be regurgitated final motion fails at any point due to concerns over private property rights, then logically this motion should be adopted without issue. The motion is that Council resolves, subject to officer reports and the outcomes of public consultation, that the City disallow, via a local law, building or demolition work to commence permits, or building or demolition work to commence where such works will, in the opinion of an authorised officer, adversely affect other land to the extent that those works will kill or cause the death of significant trees on adjoining private property.
Thank you for that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Please, yeah, and just say your name out loud. Get that? Katie Madden, yes. And that motion is now a mover and a seconder, so we'll put that motion. All those in favour? Thank you. And those against? That motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. My motion from last year, Mayor Owen, this is the same motion, but with a few extra words, and resolves to clear felling in the City of Stirling. My motion is that Council resolves, subject to officer reports and the outcomes of public consultation, to implement, via a local law, a citywide ban on the clear felling of development sites or the removal of significant trees on such sites in the absence of a development approval and a building permit linked to that development approval.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. Felicity Farrelly. And I will put that motion. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Last one, Mayor Owen.
I reckon you've said that twice now.
Did I?
That's right.
At least my counting's better than Roland Hadley's. You've seen what he gets. Mayor Owen, the City on the 30th of May last year voted to give the authority for tree removals on golf courses under the Street Trees policy to the Tree Delegate, previously referred to as the Tree Committee, despite appearing only to consist of the Tree Delegate and I assume a mirror. Now, the City of Stirling has some very good street tree policies, and it's very sensible, and obviously when a tree is diseased or dying on a verge or on reserves and stuff like that, then it needs to come down. It's not the sort of thing that needs to come to council every single time. I perfectly accept that. However, in the case of the Mount Lawley Golf Club, 94 trees were removed with the knowledge of the tree delegates that were not reported to council. I don't think that one person should have the power to do that. So, again, it wasn't a single dying tree, it was 94 trees. So my motion, Mayor Owen, is that approvals for tree removal from all city-managed reserves, including Class A reserves, other than those requiring removal due to death or disease, or in the case that a tree presents some actual physical danger, be subject to council approval, and or that a list of notifications of requested removals in such case be made available to council prior to any authorisation being given by the tree delegates, so essentially giving a call-in process being made available to councillors for proposed tree removals.
Thank you for that motion. And is there a seconder for that motion? Alicia Jack. And I'll put that final motion, if I might say. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Right, last motion, Mayor Owen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so those who haven't seen it in action before, I think you've got plenty of opportunity there. I'll get you up, Mr. Collins. I have got them all written down, so I'll invite you up. But Mr. Collins, you're welcome to come up. It's your name and suburb to start.
Paul Collins, Dianella. And Mr. Mayor, I've been to other cities and local authorities' annual electors meetings, and this is one of the most organised and civil. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a motion, and that is that the city, well, just a small preamble. Being in Mount Lawley, the really only theatre in the City of Stirling is the Astor Theatre. The City of Stirling is, I understand, one of the largest local authorities in Australia, and what it lacks is a performing arts theatre. hence the following motion. That the City of Stirling initiate the planning and construction of a performing arts theatre with a stage large enough for an orchestra as a Western Australian bicentenary project to open in 2029.
Thank you for that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Yep. Kieran Kelly has seconded that motion. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That motion is carried.
Number two, that the City of Stirling investigate options. Sorry, one of the largest regional reserves in the eastern side of our city and heavily used is Yokine Reserve. However, Alexander Drive is impossible to sometimes cross as a pedestrian. That the City of Stirling investigate options for an underpass or overpass across Alexander Drive to connect the Terry Tyzack Aquatic Centre with Yokine Reserve.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Felicity Farrelly. And I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Mr Mayor, I'm finding that a lot of our local parks near where I live and as I travel around the city are becoming tree museums. The grass is being removed, the reticulation is being lifted, and there's now, even with a public playground, very little opportunity to picnic, sit under a tree, entertain oneself on grass under a shady tree. Even the ability to sit under a tree at Brackler Park and watch a premier grade cricket match, which includes some of our state representatives, is now impossible because all the grass was removed and it's completely mulched. So the motion is this, that the City of Stirling ensure before the end of the financial year 24-25, every local park or reserve under its responsibility has sufficient green grass suitable for sitting, picnicking or entertaining under shady trees.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. I just can't see. Simon Wheeler got his hand up the back. Sorry, I didn't see your head there. So we have a seconder. So I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And those against? Thank you. That motion is carried.
Mr Mayor, one of the most busiest roads in our local authority is Hutton Street, crossing the freeway. And there's a simple solution, and hence the following motion, that the City of Stirling extend the Mitchell Freeway southbound entry lane off Hutton Street all the way to the intersection with Hamilton Street to reduce traffic congestion. The road reserve is there, it just needs to be extended.
Thank you. Is that a motion you'd like to put? Yes?
Yes,
yep.
put.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Help him out. Yep. Felicity Farrelly. Thank you. All those in favour? Oh, there's some half-hearted hands there. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone against? Well, no against saved you there, Mr Collins. That is carried.
And the last one, that the City of Stirling reticulate and maintain arterial median reserves under its responsibility, such as Alexander Drive, to a greater standard than has been occurring by at least ensuring sufficient grass coverage. They're turning into sandpits, Mr Mayor.
Yes. Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Mr Wheeler, Simon Wheeler, thank you. And I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And those against? That motion is carried.
And I've handed the text.
Yeah, and
of these.
sorry, and thank you for offering that. I will ask you, everyone who is asking questions or putting motions forward tonight, if you can hold on to them and if you can leave them on your seats or pass them to a governance staff after, it would greatly help.
I have handed mine in. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Martina Zakzek to come forward. Yep, thank you. If you just come forward. So if you just start with your name and suburb and then we'll work through it.
Martina Zaczek, that was really good. Scarborough.
Thank you.
So I have to say I'm not prepared for that. That's my first day. So I submitted a question about two questions. One is about the pedestrian crossing in.
Sorry, can I just get you to pull that down a little bit and stand behind it? Yeah.
My first question was about pedestrian crossing in West Coast Highway.
Yes.
From Per Parade to Ventnor Street. It's really hard for residents to cross it, especially in a rush hour in the morning and afternoons. There is a problem as well during the sunset markets. It's very busy and it's really hard, especially with all those visitors parking on the other side of the West Coast Highway. So the question is there any plan or idea how to help with that? And I understand there is this maybe idea, not plan yet, for the sinking the West Coast Highway, but there's no timeline really, and we have to cross the highway today, so quite important to, especially with those new developments that are happening on both sides of West Coast Highway, there will be much more residents crossing, very busy.
Thank you. I'll give you a quick response, then I'll see if Ms Shears maybe can, or Mr Murphy can add some extra comments in. Certainly at the moment, as you're probably aware, there is a pedestrian, all-side pedestrian crossing at the main intersection, which is really the only safe way, obviously, at grade to do that. There are current investigations into the Pearl Parade up that end to have a look at how that can be safer, because obviously there's some big developments there that are creating danger, who'd have guessed, trying to cross that particular road. In one of the previous development applications that went through for the corner site there was a proposed overpass, which was unfortunate that obviously that didn't get up, which in the end that development hasn't occurred anyway, but something along those lines would certainly be supported by the city. And currently the planning framework for the future sinking of West Coast Highway, whilst the city is supportive of that, one of the key components we envisage is that it needs connectivity across both sides to create that whole Scarborough environment. So we're certainly concerned with how it is active at the moment. I'll get Mr Murphy to provide some comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The first thing to say is that West Coast Highway is not under the control of the city. It's under the control of Main Roads, Western Australia, unfortunately. So our understanding at the moment, there are no plans to improve pedestrian crossing points, or your question also mentions cycling, so there's no specific plans to improve either those crossings or cycling infrastructure. Having said that, we do have an ongoing conversation with Main Roads, and we're happy to take your question to them and see if they have anything to add. And we would certainly support. We understand the difficulties in crossing between those two intersections, and so we'd certainly support any improvements as a city.
Can I add as well to that question, the landscaping of West Coast Highway on this? There's no trees, so there's no shade really, and it's not really aesthetic to go there.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, and I think that was alluded to with Mr Collins' comment.
Yes.
Interestingly, Council had a strategic planning day on Saturday, and it was probably a common theme all councillors brought up in terms of those main arterial roads leading into our districts, whether it be into Mount Lawley, whether it be into Yokine, whether it be into Hammersley or Scarborough, because often they're under the control of Main Roads, but even the ones that we have, just trying to work out how we can better look after those to show some pride in those areas.
Great. And the second question was about the Scarborough Sunset Markets and understanding the benefits and costs for the City of Stirling and ratepayers. Living there and walking there every day, I can see how it impacts the allocation itself for residents from the perspective of traffic, noise, and rubbish. I would like to ask about what the metrics are for measuring the success of the sunset markets and what's the cost of it and benefits for the residents.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I will get Mr Quirk to provide a response. It is important to note that whilst the city provides a small amount of funding for that event, it is led by the community, and we can probably take some of it offline to maybe have a chat to you about it and understand.
Yeah, that would be great, yes, to understand better who's responsible for that.
And also just from the point of view that as a community member, you have the ability to join that group or be a part of that group and maybe provide that feedback. But I'll get Mr Quirk to provide some information.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, as the Mayor correctly mentioned, it is a community-driven event, so it's actually delivered by the Scarborough Beach Association. The only direct cost that the city incurs is a $40,000 community grant that they get awarded every year. It is acknowledged that it does have a significant impact on Scarborough on Thursdays. However, the Scarborough Square, as part of the Scarborough Beach redevelopment, was actually specifically designed to accommodate large market type events. So it certainly is consistent with the plan for Scarborough. In terms of the impacts from events such as noise and rubbish, we do deal with that through our event management approval process. So the Scarborough Beach Association are required to comply with certain event aspects, but certainly more than happy to have more of a conversation with you about that.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, you may.
You gave me a microphone, so. So I just wanted to ask if we can add some more robust policies around constructions that are happening, especially the big residential constructions that are happening in Scarborough when it comes to parking for workers and rubbish that is there. So around where I live is at least 3 developments now. And the one on Fieldburn, for example, there's no grass around anymore because of the parking for the 2 years of workers coming and parking on the grass on the verges, plus the rubbish that is there. The problem with the coast side is when you have a skip that is open, the rubbish just flies because of the wind. So maybe a little bit more robust policies around that, or requirement for construction companies.
Yes, certainly, and they're fair comments, so we're happy to take those on board.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Felicity Farrelly. Welcome back.
Yes, on the other side. Felicity Farrelly, Scarborough. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Hello to councillors, staff and community. Look, that was some set of great questions. As you know, at council, I raised Scarborough so many times, I think you got distressed by the repetition. But I have put motions forward. I'm going to make that the Hubs workshop, which I did raise as a motion, and I understand it is going to go somewhere. If you haven't held it, you're going to hold it. And with that the City of Stirling be requested to update the community in the next 6 months in regard to the council workshop outcome for the woodchip hubs on Scarborough Main Beach, which includes Scarborough Square, is an iconic and cultural vista for the community in Scarborough. In the update, the timeline for community consultation be given with concurrent letterbox drop and digital communication for a community meeting on this matter. I put that forward as a motion. I know I should have done a preamble, so I'll just give you a preamble now. You know that this is one of those... I'm on the video at the moment, so I can say why. I have always promoted the fact that this is the main beach for Scarborough. I think we've got one of the most iconic beaches in the world in terms of having a population nearby, and we should really keep that vista as we come into Scarborough to see that makes a huge difference. We lost Pearl Parade, and if you've ever used to travel down Pearl Parade, we don't see the ocean now, and it does make a difference. This is the last really beach opening from the hills of Doubleview and Scarborough, so I'd like to put that as a motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Paul Collins. Thank you. And I will put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's for a report to come. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you to the community.
And opposed? That is carried, Councillor.
Oh, good. Okay, the next one is in regard to the Coastal Advisory Group, which was just commenced as I was leaving. I attended one meeting, consultation with Scarborough community. In this group, there are decisions and there's a whole plethora of information that comes with it, and one of them is the expectations and role of the group members are members have the ability to discuss with appropriate organisational individuals the general aims, objectives and business of the group. And of course, I'm reading the wrong section. To assist the city with decision making within coastal areas through the sharing of valuable local knowledge and history, to obtain comments and perspectives prior to the progression of city proposals and projects within coastal areas, to participate in the review and evaluation of city coastal management activities, plans and strategies where required, to act as a key link to the local community, and to identify any coastal maintenance or management matters that may require attention. I think this is a great group, by the way, but I am concerned about the membership. I think we've got a lot of the surf clubs. We've got, which is nice to see, as the Stirling Natural Environment, Coast Guard Surfing WA, Scarborough Board Riders, Strict Point Surf Board Riders, Strict Junior Board Riders, and the Scarborough Beach Association. But in that, we do miss out on the environmental context. We miss out on the community that are not necessarily in those beach associations, but are very much have the ability and the interest to contribute more fully. I'm particularly concerned about the urban contested environment in Scarborough, and we need to ensure that any decisions made on the beachfront are not going to be decisions that will impact on a huge part of the coastal ward that lives in that area compared to the rest of the coastal ward. So I've got a motion 2, Coastal Advisory Group consultation with Scarborough community. The motion is that the City of Stirling review the membership of the above group and ensure there is a broad spectrum of community members across all beachfront suburbs, especially where parking, shadowing of the beachfront and wind impact concerns are as important as the expertise and professional knowledge of coastal management and beach activities. I particularly notice this, that's the end of my motion, but because I notice there's things like the public interest groups such as Sunset Night Skyscrapers are not represented, and we don't have urban planning expertise reside in the area. We've got some marine engineers that reside in the area as well, which would have a great input into the way, the impact of wave motion on the coast. And we need to look at the tourism objectives of Scarborough as well, which don't seem to be considered in that. Those people are not from those groups, won't have that capacity. So I won't repeat the motion, but it's basically review the membership of the above group.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Simon Wheeler, and I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That is carried.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, community.
I do just want to assure you, my commitment is that group is certainly not a decision-making group, and it's not done as an aside to community consultation. It is very much about the built infrastructure and just making sure that the groups are aware of what is happening, because obviously they're large club membership groups, from surfing to surf lifesaving to SNEC, so on the ground stuff. But we're happy to take your motion. But
I think you're, yes, but I think everything like that can become much better if we have a across the board abilities. Look, I'm going to just include, it's not a motion, but the significant trees on private land. We've asked tree protection orders be registered. In 2003, I did a master's prelim thesis on what happens when we allow bulldozing into our bush. Actually, the CEO is still holding on to it. I lent it to him about 8 months ago. So if anyone's, you tell... you noticed I put up my hand to second things on that one. I am really quite concerned about it, and I have done a bit of research on it. So I just want to add that to the thing. And also... Do
you want to test him and see if he's read it?
What was that?
Are we going to test him and see if he's read it?
Oh, well, he hasn't been back yet. But the real thing is that down south in the down Mandurah, where they had farmlands, they actually registered trees, and there's a little like a penny size marker on the trees, and they can't knock them over. So the blocks are developed around that. And we do have some blocks in Scarborough still near the old primary school site in Bazaar Terrace, and I noticed some of the tuits are disappearing from there. That's just a comment, but there are ways to do things, particularly on Shire-owned land.
That wasn't me.
Hello? Yeah, there. On the Catalina Estate Group and things like that. And I know we've got the president of Catalina, is that right? Chair. That should be something pushed forward in the bushland of Catalina, because it does make a difference to community. I'll get back to on track now. Motion 3. This is planning for the master plan and parking, and I think most people are aware how long it took me to get you. And I really do appreciate the fact that council supported the legislation to move Development WA out of Scarborough to make planning decisions. However, with high-rise development, I think we need to look at what are the real concerns and where we put our sustainability objectives. And I just pick up my phone. On Saturday morning, there's a group that meet. One of them says, looks like I won't catch you this AM, no parking, 8:22 AM. I know, I parked to the India across the road, 8:23 AM. No parking, I give up. Hey girls, no parking, I'm home. So that's in a space of about 4 minutes, 8:30 on Saturday morning. That's not untypical. There was a surfing carnival, but the last one was coming down to watch the surfing carnival. So the motion is that the City of Stirling hold a community consultation within the next 6 months to review the master plan of Scarborough, and include in this the outcome of the planning policy for public parking for Scarborough beachfront and suburb. Included in that is that the coastal will be first off the mark for implementation of parking and transport recommendations of the planning parking policy.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. Just say your name out loud for the... Thank you. And I'll now put that to the vote. And against? That is carried.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We're getting there. Thanks everyone for your patience. Eva Walkmeyer. Good evening. Just your name and suburb to start.
Good evening. Eva Walkermeyer from Wembley Downs. So I've been living in Wembley Downs since early 2000 for a very long time, and in a current location since 2017. I've got a problem with the access on my driveway to the house, to the property. I'm at the back. The block has been subdivided, and I bought the back part of the block. 10 centimeters from the driveway is a trunk of the large chewat tree. So I've been talking to the council for a number of years, asking to possibly trim the branch that is overhanging over the driveway. So I've been talking to Parks Department, I've been talking to the Verge people, and someone else, but so far I didn't get really much help. So what I want to say is that the part of the tree that is obstructing my driveway contributes to lowering the value of my property and impacts negatively on security of my property and normal access to my property. For normal cars, passenger cars, the access is no problem. But for removal trucks, for service trucks, for large motorhome, it's not quite possible. The neighbors make it more difficult because to somehow make the way, would be possible to veer to the other side of the driveway and go onto the neighbor's verge. But I don't have permission to do that. So to drive just straight up the driveway is not quite possible. So I've got a question.
Yes.
Who is responsible for the problem with clear access on my driveway to the house? And what do I need to do to have this problem solved?
The buck stops with me. So I will commit, I will bring an officer out this week to your house and we'll have a look at it for you.
Okay. Can I put a motion also, please?
You may.
So I'm not an expert, but I thought perhaps I would try to put a motion that the issue with clear access to the house are considered by the council and solution is found to allow unobstructed access to the house.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Paul Collins, and I'll just put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And those against? That is carried.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Make sure we do. Just make sure we do have all your details before you leave tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll see you later on this week. Ramesh Lingam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I have 3 questions and 1 motion.
Thank you. And if you can just start with your name and suburb, just so it's on the record.
Yeah, Ramesh Lingam, Woodlands.
Thank you.
And my first question is, why is the council permitting inappropriate street verge trees like fig trees to exist in residential verge areas against the wishes of local residents when it is evident that fig trees will create structural damage to both houses, street curbs, council property and streets due to their invasive root structure? That's the first question.
Thank you. I'll see if Mr. Murphy wants to give you a response tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I need to take that question on notice.
Yeah, and obviously
I'll
we
find
don't
a
know
little
the
bit more.
specific case, but we are aware there are a significant amount of them throughout the suburbs, and it's to be fair, we wouldn't certainly plant them today in some of those locations, but they are very significant trees.
Yep. The second question is, why is the council stating that they will only take action once structural damage has already occurred to residential housing, and even state that even then there are treatments that can be done rather than removing the problem trees?
Thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Through Mr. Mayor. Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. We obviously we remove street trees as a last resort. There are a number of measures that can be taken, like root barriers. So every tree is looked at on a case-by-case basis. And I think you probably have a specific case that you want us to look at.
We do.
I'm happy to look into that particular case, and clearly there's some history that will help us.
And just to be clear, we're not opposed to verge trees or council trees. We actually support the council putting trees, which leads to my third question. Why is the council not removing fig trees on residential verge areas when requested by local residents and replaced by other verge trees which will not cause structural damage, particularly long-term structural damage?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And quite simply, as I think we've previously alluded to, it's the significant canopies that are provided by those trees would take 20, 30 plus years to regain by planting a new verge tree. So it's a last resort to remove a verge tree. In your particular case, look, obviously we're happy to get your details.
Well, there's two fig trees on the property, on the verge, and that's the concern. And already the driveway's been damaged, the curb's been damaged, probably also the street. And the concern is that it will cause foundation damage over time, and which leads to my motion, which is that if there are fig trees in residential verge areas, if a local resident requests that they be removed and just replaced with other type of trees that will not cause structural damage, would the council please do that?
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. If you could say your name out loud for me, please. Sharmi Lingham. Thank you. And I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is lost. So I'm sorry, your motion isn't carried tonight, but what we will do is we'll follow up with you and we'll make sure we get your details and visit that particular site. Noel Phillips. Thank you. Just your name and
Noel
suburb.
Phillips from Balcatta.
Thank you.
It's my first time ever here, and it's amazing. It's quite well done. Very, very cleverly managed.
We've got good residents.
Hey?
We've got We've got good residents who many have been here before, so they
Yeah, you
understand
good
the
practice. Yeah. Okay, I've got some simple questions here. The first one I'm concerned about, I've only been in Balcatta since August. I've come out of Scarborough. I traded Scarborough for Balcatta, but it's okay. There was good reasons. My concern is, walking around Balcatta, I observe that there are people using their sprinkler system, and a lot of the times they're just randomly running loose, and it's just like water pouring all over the roads. And I'm just wondering, who manages that? Is it because they've got bores and nobody carries the dam? Or is it run by the system that we're all paying into it? A lot of people I've spoken to say,
Can I just, clarify? I just want to clarify. Are you talking about the cities?
The city of the town of Balcatta.
Yeah, but are you talking about private verges, or are you talking about the city's parks? And
No, I'm talking about private.
Right, okay.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yes.
I know the city must be managing their parks beautifully, okay? So I hope so.
We try.
Fingers
So
crossed.
the simple answer is that the individual residences manage their own water usage. It has
Right.
to be in requirement to the legislation around water. There are significant penalties in place.
Yeah, because
it's not something that's proactively policed. There aren't people who drive around looking, but certainly if you report any of them, they will be looked into.
Well, I did. I spoke to some guy a while back, and he wasn't actually involved in it. He said, "Oh, speak to your councillor, or go to the office of the front of this office here." And I said, I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name or give the number of the place, but I walked along Amelia Street when I first came here in August, September. And there is a property that
This could be awkward for one of our councillors.
I don't care who it is. I'm just saying I don't know who it is. And this particular property, I went on a 20-minute walk towards Balga High School, which is all the way down. Balcatta High School, that's it, sorry. And when I was on my way back, the dam sprinkler was still going, and there was water everywhere on each side of the crossing.
Sure.
So that's really crazy. I mean, that's why I'm concerned. The water table is way down the bottom there, underneath us. It's actually sucking water out of the land. Common sense, okay? That's my concern.
Sure. And so what we can do is we can provide you some information on a quick, easy way where you can go online. If you don't mind going online, there are some simple ways you can just report it and it will get actioned.
Will it get active? Will it get actioned on? Yes. Who will act on it? That's the question. Who's responsible for that?
Yeah, we would normally liaise with the owners, or we'd go to Water Corp.
Water Corporation. Okay. So maybe I'm speaking to the wrong people. I should go to Water Corp.
We would be happy to still take the complaints.
Okay. And the next question I'm going to ask you, I know I'll put one on the table there, but I'm going to add a few more. What is the purpose of the tram that you've got going? Is that comes under the jurisdiction of council, or is it under the jurisdiction of Transport WA?
Thank you. So the Public Transport Authority run any transport within Western Australia. The trackless tram was a trial over here, though, so our intent is not to run a trackless tram, but we're happy to provide you with all the details of that in writing, just to give you more detail around that.
But I'm getting the message that it's like, wow, it's doing well, and we're actually going to take this on.
Hopefully one day.
Is that just to encourage the Transport Department, or is it just to say that the City of Stirling is doing a fabulous job?
No, it is certainly to advocate for better transport solutions. As you've heard tonight, areas that are congested with traffic. Currently, the state government has its Metronet, as you're probably all very aware of, and there are buses. We believe that the mid-tier transit network that is proposed by the state government needs to be accelerated, and we need to fact-check those different solutions that can be done in a cost-effective way and a timely way.
Okay. And the last one I'm going to ask you is a very general one. I suppose everybody wants to know, and they probably say, look at your rates, look at where you're spending. Is our rates equitably being used? Is my rates equitably being used to cover areas around that concerns me and every other member of the City of Stirling?
Yes, we certainly.
How do I know?
Yeah, we certainly do. And one of the reasons councils are made up of elected representatives from each area is that they spend a lot of their time, especially through this period, right through to June, advocating for their areas and what needs to be done. If you have issues within your area and you believe it needs more investment, then your local councillors, Councillor Perkoff and Councillor Hatton, are sitting over there. They'll give you a wave. We'll be happy to take your cases on. But they certainly are. And this, you know, you may have heard me talk before about this, the prior year. Sometimes you will see a couple of major buildings in one area. I think there are a couple this year, sort of Scarborough and Hammersley. You know, prior years there might have been a big investment over in Balga, or there might have been a big project over in Mount Lawley. So every year there's not the same amount of spend on big projects, but overall with road networks, etc., it is based on priority needs, but also equity across the whole area.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep an eye out for that. I'll speak to some of those guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Raul Arbitrat. Thank you. Just your name and suburb to start.
My name is Raul Abrutat. I live on 70B Hale Road in Wembley Downs. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, administration, and none but not least the ratepayers. I have a motion and only one. Just as a background, very quickly and intentionally, I live pretty close to the border with town of Cambridge, and there's a spot high-rise proposed, and my motion is about consultation. And I want to draw your attention to an association which is called International Association for Public Participation, and I will quote from you one of their documents. Let me just find it quickly. Got too many pictures here on my phone.
And sorry, sir, just the spot development you're talking about, is it in the town of Cambridge or in the city of
Unfortunately, it's in
Stirling?
the town of Cambridge. So my motion is that the city of Stirling is going to liaise with the town of Cambridge and keep ratepayers informed, like myself. Just to give you an idea, this is not about not in my backyard, but this high-rise is proposed in the what's called Ocean Village Park, and I'm also a member of that park, and there's what is referred to as threatened ecological communities, which are not people, which are trees and nature. So, and this high-rise is proposed to be plonked in the middle of it, just for your benefit, because we are all here to a degree about democracy and participation. I, as a ratepayer, I have no idea, and I'm not the only one, and I invite anybody of you to ever stroll the Ocean Village Park and talk to anybody that comes past your way and ask them what they know about this development. There's lots of secrecy about it. Mayor knows stuff and doesn't share with the councillors. Councillors asking questions, don't get an answer. So I pretty much request in my motion that you provide some leverage to the town of Cambridge and inform us what's actually proposed.
Thank you. And I'll ask if there's...
One last thing. I'd like to read out what this International Association of Public Participation talks about, which is the number one core value. Public participation is based on the belief that those who are affected by a decision have a right to be involved in the decision-making process. And just for your benefit, there's none of that in the town of Cambridge about that proposal. I mean, none. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will ask if there's a seconder for your motion. Yes, I think Felicity Farrelly has got her hand up. All those in favour, please. Thank you. And against? That motion is carried. And we're happy to follow up.
Good evening.
Robert Madden. Waited patiently. Your name and suburb.
Robert Madden, Inaloo. Thank you for taking my statement and motions this evening, Mayor Irwin, councillors and city officers. As many of you be aware, last year the Responsible Cat Ownership Stirling Group stood here and presented 5 motions to the council. regarding the effective management of cat ownership in the City of Stirling. And in the year that has followed, a large cross-section of the City of Stirling's residents, interested organisations, leading scientists, animal welfare groups, and indeed other local government areas have called on the City of Stirling to do better, not just for our wildlife and community, but also our pets. The residents of the City of Stirling and ourselves have ridden to the city and its councillors and provided factual statements of the issues surrounding free-roaming domestic cats. These facts are still of relevance, and we urge the city's officers and councillors to reappraise themselves of the content within. Most notably, we remind the city and its councillors that roaming-owned pet cats kill 390 million animals a year in Australia. And from the city themselves, a few weeks ago, we were told there are an estimated 30,000 owned cats in the City of Stirling. Cats have already contributed or been directly responsible for 27 native animal extinctions that we're aware of. We also know that free-roaming cats have an average life expectancy of just 3 years compared to 13 for those kept safely at home. And in 2019, a statutory review of the 2011 Cat Act demonstrated 73% of people support the confinement of cats to their owners' properties. Together, facts such as these support a default position that the impacts from roaming pet cats are serious and they should be reduced. We also recognise that action by the city on important topics must be led by the residents. So we are fortunate in that regard that the city administration canvassed City of Stirling residents in July 2023 for feedback on the motions we put forward last year. 143 written responses, 85% of those indicate strong support for cat containment. The 2019 statutory review of the Cat Act provides the recommendation and the basis to confine cats to premises. In 2019 and 2022, the shires of Northam and Narrogin respectively passed local laws that mandate the effective control of cats in public spaces. These shires are leading the state with proactive solutions to a systemic problem. Independent legal advice that has been provided to the City of Stirling identifies these local laws as consistent with the 2011 Cat Act. Additionally, the town of Bassendean, shires of Esperance, Cubalin, Wyacoucham, and cities of Bayswater, Bassendean, Wanneroo, Kalamunda, Kwinana, and South Fremantle are all simultaneously seeking similar changes to their local laws. The City of Stirling then stand to boost their reputation not only with residents but also their local government area peers through advocacy for such local law reform. It is noted that Clause 82 of the Cat Act 2011 clearly articulates that a council can gazette local laws that use the wording of any other gazetted local law in WA, for example, Northern. In keeping with the documented community, scientific and government-led recommendations for the effective control of cats, and with a view to better animal and social wildlife outcomes, we would like to submit the following 4 motions to Council. Number 1, that the City of Stirling Council resolve to create and adopt a policy statement acknowledging the significant adverse effects on both cats and native wildlife where cats are allowed to roam freely in the City of Stirling, referencing the overwhelming evidence that cats confined to premises live longer and healthier lives, and that confining cats to premises, unless under effective control, will have a significant positive impact on supporting biodiversity, promoting a natural and healthier urban environment, and amends the city's strategic community plan under the natural environment category to reference the intent of this policy as a priority, and amends any other policies to reference that intent of this policy where applicable.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Leisha Jack, and I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? Thank you. That motion is carried.
Number 2, that the City of Stirling Council writes to the new Minister for Local Government and the Minister for the Environment requesting immediate amendments to the Cat Act 2011 to require that cats be under effective control at all times when in public places.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Ariane Bradley, and I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? And against? The motion is carried.
3, that the City of Stirling Council seek external independent legal advice on the legitimacy of the Joint Standing Committee for Designated Legislation's recent decisions in regard to the control of cats in public places where such is inconsistent with the gazetted local laws of the Shires of Narrogin and Northam, in order to guide and inform Council's decision-making during the upcoming review of the city's keeping and control of local cats law.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Simon Wheeler, and I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? And those against? That motion is carried.
And 4, that the City of Stirling Council amends the Keeping and Control of Cats Local Law 1999 to include an effective control of cats provision for cats in public places.
Thank you. And a seconder for that motion? Simon Wheeler's got his hand up, and I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City of Stirling officers and staff.
Thank you. All right, how are we going? Is Bob Mitchell still here? No. Right. Simon Wheeler. I guess he's given you something.
Pardon?
Well played. Yeah.
Mayor Owen, I hope you don't mind. Mr. Mitchell had to go, and he had asked me if I can put his motion.
No, happy to.
Yeah. I can't speak to. Well,
you can probably paraphrase some of that if you'd like.
Yeah.
You can.
I'll take the last paragraph. Is on behalf of Mr. Mitchell, I don't, and many others don't like picking of the. It's about the timing of discussing the annual report, basically, and I don't, and many others don't like picking at the bones of last year's annual Electors ratepayers meeting and audit report in March of any given year. We would rather be able to pick at the meat of the issues that affect us earlier than March each year. Matters audit can still be debated and presented at any regular council meeting throughout the year. And Mr. Mitchell would like to raise a motion that the state government audit report or annual contracted council audit report sanctioned by the Auditor General for a financial year be held over in the succeeding year, and the state government audit report or sanctioned approved report held over for when delivered to a regular City of Stirling monthly council meeting for council vetting and or approval, and that the annual Electors ratepayer meeting be held no later than October in any given year.
Thank you for that motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Alicia Jack, and I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Actually a good motion, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for that. Alicia Jack. And just your name and suburb again.
Alicia Jack, Karrinyup.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, we have a very, very big council, huge population, and yet we look around and there's very few people here in the gallery. The city has a very competent marketing and public relations team, and they do a wonderful job of advertising and promoting anything the city wants to promote in the way of events, as we've seen in the video earlier and in this annual report. But when it comes to this meeting, how would people know it was there? On Friday, I had to contact the CEO and ask him if he would put it on the homepage of the website of the City of Stirling. Events for public participation, community participation are well advertised by the city. There's a controlled environment where questions have been, the events orchestrated, the questions are very carefully put to the people. But this is a forum where the public can actually raise concerns or other issues. So next year, can the city please use the marketing department to promote this event?
Yes.
To the electors?
Yes, and I'm happy to provide some information on what was done. It's certainly not the intent. It's widely promoted on our social media channels and through our normal marketing. And it's publicised a year in advance, the date. And I would
Would you explain where, please? How?
Yeah, I'll get Mr. Morby to give you all the details.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the question, Ms. Jack. The EGM was advertised on the city's website, and I do note your feedback that you provided on Friday, and the city did action that.
Yes, it
Notices
did.
were also placed in recreation centres and the city's libraries. It was also advertised on the city's social media accounts. It was also advertised through an electronic mail out to all of our regular attendees of council meetings, and it was also advertised in the City of Stirling's Stirling Scene newsletter. The date was also included in the agenda and the minutes of the 13th of February 2024 council meeting.
I also note that a lot of the events include, and the cover of this page include, young, hip-looking, groovy people. I did note that the advert that was put up for this meeting looked like it was a seniors event, and it often is, but we do get young people here too. I just don't think that the city advertises this event as well as it could, and I've just asked, my motion is, could the city please do more to promote this particular event going forward, please?
Yes. Would you like that just as a question
That's my
statement?
motion.
You like it as a
Will
motion?
the city...
Yeah, I'll get a seconder, Felicity Farrelly, and I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? Happy to look into that.
This is a really important one, and it is related to the urban forest. The city's public health plan. Some cities have them. City of Bayswater, a few others have public health plans. I'm aware that the state government, Department of Health, is currently working on guidelines for councils, for local governments, to put together public health plans. But it's stalled. It's reached stage 5 of 5, but it's stalled since last June. It's hit the built environment, and it doesn't seem to be progressing. I'm only assuming that maybe public trees and public health are a very important issue for Western Australia and urban areas. As I've mentioned before, the Lancet, and there's been more articles recently that are saying that the Australian Bureau of Statistics are not providing the true figures for heat-related deaths and hospitalisations, and the number of people dying from heat or heat-related deaths are as much as 50-fold worse. That was in the Lancet. You can look that up. My motion is that the city create a public health plan, like other cities have, other councils have, and that it include extreme heat and the importance, the preventative measure of protecting and planting trees to reduce urban heat.
Thank you. And I will get a seconder for that motion. Thank you. And just say your name out loud for me. Raul. And I will now put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
I'd just like to note, Mr. Mayor, that you didn't really have a comment on that. This is a question, is there a public health plan being put together at the moment? What's happening there at the City of Stirling?
Yes, it is in draft form. I'll get Ms Shears to provide some comment on it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms Jack, for the question. Yes, that's correct. There is one being drafted internally with our environmental health team. It's in its early stages, so it's not something that will be completed quickly. So that's something we're working through at the moment.
And
when was the last time the city had a public health plan, please?
Ms Shears?
I think you attempted this in 2017, if I'm right.
I think that was the start of the consultation and the work on it. But I think now that your motion is up, what we'll do is provide all that information in a report, and all that information will come obviously into the public realm, so you're able to see where it is.
It's really important. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I should have said this one in the first part of the meeting, but on page, under the, where is it? Sorry, livable neighbourhoods. It says that the City of I think it's page 164, livable neighbourhoods. The City of Stirling is renowned for its tree-lined streets. Really? How is that possible? Here we are. The City of Stirling is recognised for its tree-lined streets and well-planned neighbourhoods. Page 143, under Livable City. The city is recognised for its tree-lined streets. Is that the case in Balga? Some of those suburbs in the Balga ward? Maybe in the, Osborne Park? What about Glendalough, some of those areas? I don't think that's really very accurate. So my motion is that the city not repeat that in the next annual report.
I quite like that one, Mr. Jack. I'll get a seconder for that motion, Felicity Farrelly, and I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? And against? Thank you, that's carried.
Well, at least you can't sue me for greenwashing now, because that's a glaring example.
There was
okay.
no intent to sue anyone.
Good. You wouldn't be able to, so that's why I said it. Okay. Look, tree species. As we've said many times before, and I think the City of Stirling have said it themselves, it's the size and density of the canopy of a tree that creates the shade. If it's a big tree with a dense canopy, it creates a lot of shade. But I'm getting really concerned about the size of some of the species that I see being planted on verges, and also the number of jacarandas that are being planted. Personally, I like jacarandas in the right place, and when they're healthy, they're beautiful, especially in November when they flower. But they have a very thin canopy, and many of them are struggling. They don't thrive. Some of them just seem to be saplings and half dead. They just don't go anywhere. So my motion on that one is, can the city please make sure that the tree species, okay, here, let me rephrase that, that they plant the biggest possible species in the space available.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Raoul. And I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And against? That motion is carried.
Another question and motion. I'm very, very concerned about a lot of business car parks. Now, I know the city makes businesses plant trees, but they're not planting really big trees again. A lot of them are planting very small species, just maybe barely 3 metre species, some of them seem to be, and they're not watering them, they're not maintaining them. So there's no point in forcing businesses to plant trees if those trees are not going to be maintained. I mean, I can say this because it's true. If you go to the IKEA car park, for example, they're really struggling. Those trees are struggling. Bunnings in Balcatta, a lot of half-dead trees in that car park. I don't know whether they're watering them, what they're doing with them. Is there anything the city can do to make businesses look after the trees and make sure they understand why they're planting them, and that shade trees attract customers, and that's a proven fact in retail associations around the world. So my motion would be, could the city please do more to encourage businesses to look after the trees to create more shade in their car parks?
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you. And just over here, your name out loud, please. Noel Phillips. Noel Phillips, thank you. And I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? Your motion is carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
motions. And I've got here Kieran Kelly, if you'd like to come forward.
It's gone great. Thank you, Mark. Kieran Kelly, Scarborough. I have 4 motions on behalf of Sunsets Not Skyscrapers and one from myself. So I'll start with the Sunsets. Okay, the motion that the city prepare a report to council addressing the known issues contained in the Scarborough Special Control Area Master Plan, design guidelines and development policies inherited in 2023 through a process known as normalisation of the Development WA Scarborough Redevelopment Area Planning Framework, which since its adoption in 2016 has resulted in ad hoc planning and unacceptable and inequitable outcomes contrary to the expectations of Scarborough and the City of Stirling residents and ratepayers. The report is to include, but not limited to, consideration and recommendations of changes for incorporation into the local planning scheme number 4 as follows: building height restrictions, overshadowing calculations that take into account the context and character of Scarborough Beach, the public open space requirements, definition of what represents a community benefit in referencing to awarding bonus heights, how build-to-rent applications should be addressed and how they will fit into the scheme, more equitable developer contribution, public art contributions, affordable housing components, parking and traffic issues, disallowance of made-up provisions such as gross floor area transference, which do not nor ever have been part of the applicable planning scheme, and definitions of design excellence that include amenity to the public and beach users, best practice architecture and aesthetics compatible with coastal environment.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. I'll get a second.
That's motion one.
Robin Murphy has seconded that for you, and I'll ask for that to go to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Okay. Whilst partially addressed in the first motion, the following two motions are specific. The first relates to the use of discretion in relation to bonus heights routinely awarded to developers contrary to the original planning framework and design guidelines. Noting that discretion is a sensible inclusion in any planning scheme, we are seeking the following in relation to the use of planning discretion by the City in the adoption of the Scarborough Special Control Area Master Plan. So the motion, planning discretion, that the City of Stirling amend the Scarborough Special Control Area Master Plan design, guidelines and develop policies to specifically to specify maximum limits on building heights to match the base and bonus heights already considered within the original master plan and design guidelines. So it's maximum building heights of 12 stories, and amend the discretionary clause 1.7 in the building guidelines to remove the words including any height provisions to ensure that this clause does not apply to building heights over and above the base and bonus heights described by the scheme.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Simon Wheeler. I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? The motion is carried.
Okay, motion 3, bonus heights, that the City of Stirling amend the Scarborough Special Control Area Design Guidelines to remove the 5-star energy rating from the criteria required to the awarding of bonus heights and require a 6-star green energy rating as an absolute minimum to qualify determination of the development in the special control area.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Robin Murphy. I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? The motion is carried.
And motion 4, the Council has no doubt heard of concerns over traffic and parking in the Scarborough foreshore area. So the motion is that the City conduct an integrated traffic management study in order to create a traffic management strategy specifically to guide building development in the special control area, and that the City suspend consideration of development applications in the special control area until such time as a traffic management strategy is in place to guide responsible planning.
Thank you. And is there a second for that motion? Robin Murphy, and I'll put that one to the vote. Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Okay, and this is just for myself, this one. Now, my concern is that the City is failing to uphold the highest standards of openness and transparency by not requiring councillors to declare any membership of political parties. Failure to declare political party membership encourages councillors to pursue party political agendas, sometimes for the personal ambition and often at the expense of public interest. Such a public declaration is therefore necessary to ensure any actual or perceived conflict of interest are properly addressed, and an annual declaration should be required and should include not only political party memberships, but also any membership, interest or positions in any corporation, trade union, professional or business association or community and sporting organisation. Further noting that there is no statute preventing the adoption of such a register, and other councils in Western Australia, such as Bayswater and South Perth, have already adopted registers of political party membership. I therefore propose the following motion. In the interest of openness and transparency, the City require all councils to make an annual declaration of all membership, interest and positions in any political parties, corporations, trade unions, professional or business associations, or community and sporting organisations. Furthermore, such annual declarations be published online to be available for public scrutiny and should be updated as required.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Simon Wheeler. And I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kelly. That's all I've got on my list, but have I missed anyone? Robin Murphy? No, you're welcome to come up. That's right, just your name and suburb.
Robin Murphy, 30 Rinaldi Crescent, Karrinyup. Thank you, Mr Mayor. This actually follows on from a question that I asked during the reporting stage for the annual report. And it is about the gender pay gap at the City of Stirling employees. The motion is that the City include in its future annual report the gender pay gap, that is the difference between women and men's average weekly full-time earnings for its employees, using the same criteria and method as used by the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Felicity Farrelly. All those in favour?
Oh, all right.
Sorry, have you not finished?
Oh, no, I was going to speak to the motion.
That's all right. We'll put it to the vote. I'm sure we'll get it. And then, because we're halfway through the vote, but you're welcome to still speak. You're welcome to still speak. So all those in favour? Thank you. And against? Your motion is carried, but you're welcome to speak.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to make the point, really, that the City of Stirling has in the past had an overwhelmingly male-dominated workforce, particularly at senior levels. It's been obvious to me with my involvement with council over many, many years. And I would point out that the statistics actually appear in the annual report that the executive team is 80% male. The business unit managers are 67% male. First-tier supervisors are 65% male. And in the senior salary band, those earning over $130,000 a year, 59% are male and 41% are females. The workforce coming up under the age of 24 are 53% male and 47% female. So unless we start doing better at the City of Stirling at those younger age groups recruitment, I can't see that it's going to change too much in the future, but I'd really appreciate it if the City would take this more into consideration.
I appreciate those comments, and you'll certainly in the next year's reporting certainly see a change, but we're happy to provide you that information in the report.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else I've missed? Yes?
I wasn't signed in, but I'd like to.
That's all right.
Good evening, Mr Mayor and Councillors.
Good evening.
Leonie from Hammersley. I just wanted to put forward...
Sorry, can I just get you to put the mic down a little bit? Thank you.
Sorry, short person here.
That's all right.
To ask the City of Stirling to consider following the example set by Water Corporation and the town of Cambridge. They've partnered together, and the treated water from Water Corp is being pumped into the Perry Lakes, and for the first time in over a decade, the large pond or lake area at Perry Lakes and the smaller one is full. So if that's something that the City of Stirling could consider for Corrine As you can see, currently Kareen wetlands is drylands,
Yes.
and we are losing, that water loss is causing trees to be stressed. If you have a look around the trees at Kareen, you'll see they're very stressed. So we're losing them, and in relation to what was mentioned earlier about trees in car parks, that's also why we're seeing loss of trees there as well too, due to the water table dropping. So that's my
Thank you.
motion.
We're certainly happy. Do you want to put that as a motion? Was that what
Yes.
you'd like to do? Yes. Is there a
Thank
seconder
you.
for that motion? Thank you, Felicity Farrelly, and I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? And against? That is carried.
Lovely, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. How are we going? Katie?
Thank you. Ms Mayor and councillors, I obviously didn't register my question,
That's right.
but I've had a bit of time to think this evening, and surprisingly it's not about cats.
So can you just
So yeah,
start with your...
Katie Madden,
that's it.
Inaloo.
Thank you.
I just had some curiosity lately about the FOGO waste management system for food or waste and garden waste. I moved to the City of Stirling from a council that had a 2-bin system. I got rid of my compost bin thinking I'd be able to put all my organic waste into the green bin, and then very quickly learnt it's for garden waste only. So my question to council is there any consideration or plans to introduce the FOGO waste management system within the City of Stirling?
So I was just checking on the update there. Council just had a workshop last week. So council hasn't made a resolution yet to do it, but in April. So if you want to put a motion forward that we do investigate, we'll basically be able to put in that report of when the council dates are coming back. And council certainly has had workshops on it, and a report will come to council on the implications of moving to FOGO, and it'll be a council decision whether we do.
Okay, great, thank you. In that case, I'd like to put a motion forward that the council consider implementing a FOGO waste management scheme.
Thank you. And is there a seconder for that? Robert Madden. And I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
No problem at all. I think we're done.
I forgot one of my questions.
I'm pretty sure you do this every year, Miss Jack. Yes, you may.
It's only a little one.
That's
Before I ask my question, I just want to inform everyone that I have cats that I keep in my property, and they're very, very happy and healthy, and it's all working out very well. I've made a cat run, and we've got lots of things for them to play with in the house, and it's all working out beautifully. The cats are very well. They have survived.
You might get
Okay.
yourself a shirt if you keep that up.
So are the birds in my garden. The question I noted today, I've been going down to Scarborough a lot for a Pilates class, and I listened to Felicity Farrell about the parking. I missed a class one Saturday morning at 8:30 because I just couldn't get parking, and it was just terrible. But anyway, I noticed the trees, the pine trees along Scarborough Beach, many of them are looking very unwell. They're in decline, which means they're dying, or probably going to die. It's been long known in Perth, probably for a couple of decades, that there is a disease, maybe a Phytophthora style disease, I'm not sure, type disease, that is killing conifers. Hedges, trees, and pine trees are conifers from that plant species group. Why is the city continuing to plant so many pine trees when it is actually against the monoculture, resilient urban forest train of thought that you have to have a variety of trees just in case one variety gets sick and dies, you're not left with no trees. But there seems to be too many pine trees, and many of them, as I said, are dying on Scarborough Beach. So they can't be treated. I know that from Arbor Carbon. I'd just like to say that the motion is, could the city please consider a more diverse range of species on Scarborough Beach, along Scarborough Beach?
Thank you. And I'll ask if there's a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Rael. And I will put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? That motion is carried.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No, that's quite all right. I will just mention though, we certainly, they're not a favoured planting throughout the city. There were some planted in Scarborough to match the existing ones during the redevelopment for obviously theming the area.
They look gorgeous. I love
yeah.
them. They look like cottesloe. I can understand why you
And we're
plant
happy,
them, but
and we're also happy to look into it because we certainly haven't noticed a
yeah,
significant decline.
they're going to die. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's a sad thought to leave us with tonight, isn't it? Have we got, something happy to leave us with? Yes? Is that a happy thing? Yeah, it's got to be happier than trees dying.
So Leonie from Hemsley, just in reference to FOGO, so I know that the state government required all local governments to go to FOGO by 2025. So is that still a state government requirement? So this would go to the FOGO?
It's not a requirement that you have to. It's certainly an encouragement with funding attached to it. All of that information will form part of that report, and obviously council will make a decision on the. It's got to weigh up all of the benefits, implications of moving to FOGO, and then make a decision on it.
And the Neerabup recycling rail refuse facility, which is currently not operating, would that actually start operating since it comes under Mindarie Regional Council?
I'm not aware of a plan for that to be a FOGO recycling. I might get Mr. Murphy to provide some updates if he can.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the Neerabup facility, owned by Mindarie Regional Council, of which we're a member, did close a couple of years ago. It was designed to compost the organics in a mixed bin, so from a 2-bin system. For lots of reasons, that plant is closed and the contract was ended. That facility is currently subject to a public tender, which is being run by Mindarie Regional Council, for it to potentially be an organics processing plant for processing materials such as FOGO. So there's no decision as yet, but it is part of a public tender as an option. So that's the current state.
It's actually owned by Mindarie Regional Council, which means all the councils that come under Mindarie Regional Council. So why would you put it out to public tender?
Because it's complicated, but all of the regional councils who are members of Mindarie Council made a decision to close that plant as it was no longer operational or fit for purpose. Member councils would have to decide to either run that facility or put it out to a tender process to see if it was to be run as a FOGO facility. There's significant cost implications in changing and upgrading the facility to do that. Our decision at council isn't necessarily based on that being up and running as a FOGO facility. There is plenty of other facilities within Western Australia that can take FOGO.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that does bring us to the closure of the meeting. I'd like to thank those viewers at home who've been watching tonight. I'd also like to thank all of you for your patience and respectful way in which you asked your questions, provided your information and provided your motions. I'd like to advise that the minutes from the meeting this evening will be presented to the council meeting to be held on Tuesday, the 30th of April 2024. I'd also just like to acknowledge that whilst we try to bring all of those motions back to that particular council, we will notify those people who have attended tonight. If, for example, there's a council agenda item that relates specifically to that was going to come earlier, then we're probably not going to double up and do that particular meeting and then do your motions at a later date. We will try to endeavour to put those motions as part of items if there is an item coming up prior to that, and we'll notify you so you're aware of that. Because obviously there's many of the things that are very topical at the moment, and that we are aware as a council that over the next period of or cycle of council meetings, many of those things were going to come up in certain forms as an agenda item. So what we'll do is provide that additional information on your motions and try to make sure that they're considered together, because it makes a lot more sense to do it that way. So again, thank you for your attendance tonight. Again, if I can ask you to leave your questions and motions either on your seat or pass them to a council staff member before you leave, it will assist greatly in making sure that we can get these minutes together. If you have any further follow-up, you're welcome obviously to reach out to your ward councillors or send myself an email or give me a phone call and we can chat about it. Thank you for your attendance tonight. Good evening, everyone.